These are some of the best comic book gifts I've ever received. Welcome back to Comics Are Dope. I'm BJ Kicks, and as this goes live, it is Christmas Eve, the day before Christmas. Super awesome. That Christmas Day is almost here. We're about to open up gifts and spend time with family and wear pajamas and sip hot chocolate and eat ham and all the other Christmas traditions. And of course, to celebrate, right, I'm in a little bit of a reflective mood. I've been doing this series called the 25 Days of Comics. This is day 24. And in this video, I wanted to just do some reflecting of my own on some of the best, the coolest, the greatest gifts that I've received as a comic book fan. Now, the cool thing about Christmas is, of course, like, yeah, you get gifts, right? But it ends up being about way more than just the gifts. It's about time spent with your family and just a warm hug, basically, is what Christmas feels like. And it's funny because that's the same sensation I get when I look back at some of these gifts. This is really a celebration of comic book friendships, and that something I'm really excited about. So I'm going to run down some of the coolest things that I've gotten, and really tell you the stories behind them. And yeah, man, we'll get it going. So let's start. You know what? I'll kind of start from the beginning because it's funny. I can kind of trace my comic book friendships back to me first getting into comics, right? And when I first started this channel, it's funny because I was still fairly new to comics when I started the channel. I've been reading comics about a year and some change, but I was still very green. I'd go to the comic shop, and I had started basically during the pandemic. I started working from home. And so I was able to go to the shop every Wednesday morning. And there's this other guy at the shop every Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock as soon as the doors open. And he was there scoping out variant covers and stuff like that he would later sell on eBay stores. And, you know, I saw this guy grabbing like all these expensive books, like weeks and weeks in a row. And I don't know, eventually somehow we sparked up a conversation. And my homie AJ, like, just became like a sort of mentor. Like, he knew what I was doing on YouTube. He started following me, because, you know, other people at the shop had kind of recommended it or whatever. And for whatever reason, he took a liking to me. And so it was really cool. When we found out we actually had a mutual mentor we even found out we had like a mutual mentor, which is crazy. But anyway, AJ and I became like, you know, fast homies, and he would look out for me like, hey, get this, not that. Oh, I saw your video. I recommend that you do X, Y, Z in your next one. And so it was really cool to have somebody like kind of showing you the ropes, giving you pointers. And when the channel started gaining traction, he started like just donating gifts to the channel. Like, hey, you should use this for a giveaway one day. This is the Guardians of Nowhere #1. This is during the Secret Wars event. And, you know, Marvel's just putting out all kinds of random variant covers. And this ends up being the first appearance of Gwenom. And later on, they did the Gwenom versus Carnage series and all this stuff. But now Gwenom's like an actual character, and this is her first appearance. It's graded. It's only a CGC 7. So, you know, and AJ would do stuff like that. He'd be like, oh, man, well, I'm not going to be able to sell this as a 7, but this will be a good prize for your channel or just something to have. So hold on to it for a little while and see what happens with it. So anyway, this is one of those gifts. Another gift he gave me for the same reason was this. This is, I'm pretty sure AJ gave me this. Now I'm trying to remember if I got this from a mystery box or not. But this is Thanos issue 13. This is the first appearance of the Cosmic Ghost Rider, who, again, had his own Marvel series, came from, or written by Donny Cates, art by Jeff Shaw, excuse me. And I really like this image of Thanos. It's only a CGC 6. I don't know what makes a comic good grade or not. This just looks like a regular comic book to me. And that's why I don't play CGC games. But yeah, so these were gifts for the channel to use in giveaways. And I guess I got to give them away. It's been 2 years. But this was a gift specifically for me. This is Daredevil issue 181. This is a classic Daredevil cover. As a matter of fact, my cover for the Daredevil by Frank Miller Omnibus is this same cover, but this is, this appearance or this issue apparently features like the death of Elektra and an appearance by Bullseye. And we got some other stuff with Bullseye later on. But anyway, so this, cover is really cool, but ultimately it's my friendship and mentorship with my homie AJ that was just really, really cool to me that I wanted to reflect on. So that's the first thing I wanted to get out of the way. So that ended up being like the first kind of major comic book friendship I built offline. But the first big comic friendship I built online was with my homie Kev Cost. Kev, I guess, was watching the channel and ended up joining the Facebook group. He's a moderator in the Comics Are Dope community on Facebook. And one of the first things that he ever sent me was this. This is Monstrous Book 1. Kev has always been a big champion of indie comics, kind of similar to my friend Skip and Tosh. And he's always reading like just these kind of dense and meaty titles, just like Skip. And one of the first things that he recommended was Monstrous. Now I've noticed that Kev tends to like either like big fantasy or big like sci-fi sort of books. And this kind of has a little bit of both. It's like a kaiju story. It's kind of sci-fi. But it's definitely like more mature. It's definitely rated M for mature. But this is written by Marjorie Liu with art by Sana Takeda. And I can't lie, I've not read this book still. I've read parts of it. Like I've gone like back and forth to it. I think ultimately this is not like what I would generally gravitate toward, which is the cool thing about having comic book friends. They recommend things that are outside of your wheelhouse, and it's up to you to find value in them. Every time I thumb through this book, like I love the art. But this is one of those reads that it's like, okay, this is not, they're not going to hold your hand through this. Like you're going to have to like actually sit and learn about this world building and this woman and this kaiju that, you know, sort of befriends her, inhabits her, right? Like we got to talk about all this. So you know what? Now that I've taken this off the shelf, I'm going to go ahead and read it. But Monstrous Book 1, this was the first gift from my homie, Kev. And it's funny because he sent this book to me. And then he would ask me, he would check up every so often, like, hey, you ever read Monstrous? And I'm like, I'm going to read it. I'm going to review it. And then I never did, right? Then he sent me something else. He's like, I know you're going to like this next thing. And I didn't know what it was going to be. But it was this. And what's crazy is the way Kev did this. And it's funny, we still talk like pretty often online. But anyway, he just asked me one day who my favorite Milestone character was. And I was like, oh, I mean, I love Blood Syndicate, but I guess if I had to pick one person, it's probably Static. And thought nothing of it. And then like weeks later, this came in the mail. This is a copy of the Milestone Returns Infinite Edition 0 issue. And this is a blank sketch variant, but it's got art on it by a guy named Bran Flakes. His name, it just says Bran Flakes on the certificate of authenticity. So I'll have to find his information. His art's a little NSFW, not on this cover, obviously. But just want to let you know, because I'm going to plug his Instagram. I don't want anybody to be shocked. But yeah, this one of a kind Milestone Returns issue with Static on it is really, really awesome. And one of the best gifts that I've received. It's just the perfect picture of my friendship with Kev. Like, Kev has always put me on to like indie stuff. Kev is a big fan of Stranger Comics. And so I got the whole Stranger Comics trade paperback set because of Kev. And I actually read some of it and I liked it. Like, again, it's not like my typical wheelhouse, but still fun stuff and interesting stuff. And by the way, the Stranger Comics founder, Seb, his mom passed recently. I think they're still doing a GoFundMe for her. If they are, I'll leave it in the description down below. But yeah, so celebrating comic book friendships. And I decided, shout out my homie Kev. Now, another friendship that I made online and in person was with my homie Chris. Chris from the, he's in the Ultimate Comics live show community. And so he and I would be competing all the time, trying to buy up different Batman books. Like if there was Batman on the screen, it was almost a guarantee that either he or I was going to get it at certain points. And then one day out of the blue, he was like, hey, yo, I got something for you. And it's this book right here. this is Batman, Son of the Demon. Now, you guys all know that Damian Wayne is my favorite Robin. I love Batman having a son and I think Batman having Damian is just the ultimate like proof that Batman can be a family man and doesn't have to be a loner to work as a character. But anyway, Son of the Demon is not the official origin of Damian Wayne, but this is the story that Grant Morrison pulls from to bring Damian Wayne into continuity. Basically, if you don't know the story, Talia al Ghul kind of tricks Bruce Wayne into sleeping with her and gets pregnant. And so we do see an appearance of this baby, basically like the last panel, right? Now, what's funny is in this book, well, I would be spoiling this book, but in this book, like, it's not made clear that Batman has a son and is going to just raise a son from now on. I'll just leave it like that. So it makes it even more genius when Damian pops up in Batman 655. I'm pointing because I have a experienced Damian Wayne over there. But anyway, Chris, knowing how much I love Damian Wayne, is like, oh snap, I have 2 of these here. You can have my second printing because I'm buying a first. If I remember correctly, this is the second printing. I don't know if it's listed in here. Yeah, it's not listed, but I'm pretty sure this is the second printing, and he gave me this because he bought a first print. Anyway, shout out to my homie Chris. All right. Other gifts. Let's talk about significant friendships. Like, again, starting this channel, the cool thing about YouTube or comic book YouTube is for most people, most of us, right? You go to the comic shop and that's pretty much all the interaction you get with comic book fans, unless you join some kind of message board or community. So, you know, if it weren't for this channel, there are a lot of relationships I wouldn't have. There are a lot of conversations I wouldn't be able to have. And, you know, yeah, just a lot of things I wouldn't be able to do. The first sponsor I ever got on this channel was a company called Mainstream Comics. Mainstream Comics did mystery boxes. And Mystery Dave just hit me up one day. Was like, yo, like, can we like jump on the phone? And this was the early days of the channel. This was like month 2 or 3. And he basically was like, look, like, you maybe don't see it, but I see something in you. You're going to be big one day, and I want my company to back you. And so we started a partnership, and basically every week he would send a Mainstream mystery box, and I would get to do like this sort of official preview of what might be inside. Like, here's some of the variants coming out this week. Here's some of the things that are being ordered. So if you order a Mainstream mystery box, you might get lucky and get one of these things, right? Every month, the Mainstream mystery box had 2 art prints commissioned. One by an artist named Ben Ruzicka, and then I can't remember what the second tier was called, but that one had art by Frank Kadar, which was really, really cool. I think you had to like order a certain amount or after you ordered 10 Mainstream mystery boxes total, that you got to this extra tier where you would get the Frank Kadar sketch as well. But anyway, there's one day or 1 month where I'm doing like all these sort of previews. And the Ben Ruzicka sketch is just awesome. It's this awesome image of Bullseye. And I make a joke in one video like, man, I really need that on like a full size like art print. Like I can hang up on my wall, not just like a little comic size print. And then it was crazy. Like my daughter was born prematurely in March. I came home to like a massive stack of boxes, packages. And one of the packages had this inside. So this is that full-size art print by Ben Ruzicka depicting Bullseye. And at one point I had this on my wall, and then it like didn't fit in with the other art on my wall, so I took it off. It's about time. I think it's time to add this back to the rotation. And it's signed by Ben. But what's really cool is I didn't notice this until like almost a year after the fact. I was moving, and when I did, I just happened to go in that tube and I found this. Somehow I didn't even notice that he had included 2 posters. There's the sketch variant that the poster was based on. And I didn't hang this one up because this doesn't really represent well, like on camera. Like you can't really see it as well as you can see that full color design. But yeah, and so Bullseye sketch. It's got the date, March 17th, 2021. And it's for me. And as far as I know, I'm the only one with these full-size prints, which is really cool. Unless Ben's selling them at cons, in which case, do your thing, man. That's your art. Do your thing. But anyway, so my relationship with Mystery Dave, and then ultimately with Ben and with Frank later, is just something that's really cool and could have only happened because of YouTube and just the power of the online comics community. Speaking of the online comics community, the second sponsored relationship I got on this channel was with Organic Price Books. And that's a relationship that continues to this day. But and I have to put in that clip. But anyway, I don't know how we like became friends. I think I just added him on Facebook back when he had first started Organic Price Books. And then he hits me up and was like, hey man, like, I love your videos. Like, hey, let's partner together. Like, let's, here, I'll send you a book every month and you just shout out, the channel and, we'll see where things go. And so I was like, sure. Like, of course. Yeah, I'm down. Let's do it. And the first book that we used to do Organic Price Books promotion was this, Star Wars Dr. Aphra, Volume 1. What's funny is this is actually the standard cover. The one that I did an overview of was the direct market variant. Ended up giving the direct market variant away in a giveaway on the channel and keeping the standard cover. And that's why this one is still sealed. But I don't know. Dr. Aphra was a big deal. I've still not read it. I hadn't read the Jason Aaron Star Wars at the time. And so I didn't want to open this or read it first. But this is the one that started it all. This is the one that started our partnership with Organic Price Books. It's been an amazing partnership, an amazing friendship. And it's just been really, really cool to watch him build that company from the ground up, from pre-orders of certain books to him selling out of books or getting damaged books and then buying books at full retail just to mail out to people, to now having a whole warehouse and just doing freight and just killing it. He got into a field where there were two major companies that everybody talked about and firmly established himself as a third player. And I don't know, he might be number 2 and not number 3 in that category. And that's crazy. So shout out to JP and Organic Price Books and the book that started it all. All right. Now, I talked about the Ultimate Comics live show. This gift was really cool. I don't even have a relationship with the person that gave it to me. But there's one day I'm watching the Ultimate Comics live show and they put this book up for sale. And I was like, I'd buy that, but my alternator just went out. I got to pay for that instead. And this dude was like, hey, I'll buy it for him, and bought me this book. I'm like, I don't know you from Adam. The only thing we have in common is our first name, because his name was Brandon too. But anyway, this is my copy of the Planet Hulk Omnibus that I got at the time where Planet Hulk was out of print. They've reprinted this as of a few months ago, but I didn't buy this. My man Brandon from the Ultimate Comics live show. He's not from the live show, but he was somebody who was shopping at the Ultimate Comics live show, and he bought me this. And I've thumbed through it. I did an overview, if I'm not mistaken. But this was sealed when I bought it from him, or when he got it from me. And I was like, that's crazy. There was a time when I thought this was going to be the only Hulk book I ever read. I watched the Planet Hulk animated movie, and I thought that was cool. And so I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm not a big Hulk fan, but I'd buy that. And now I've got this and, this one other Hulk story under my belt. So shout out to Brandon for that. All right. So we talked about JP and my relationship with Organic Price Books. And hey, I love Organic Price Books. They're the only place I shop for collected editions, unless I get an Amazon gift card or something. And, it's just been an awesome relationship. One of the coolest points in that relationship was when the whole JLA Avengers reprint thing happened. George Perez had just been announced that he had cancer, and they rushed a quick printing of JLA Avengers to trade paperbacks or to distributors, and they announced it, but they announced it in a way where it's like you couldn't do a it wasn't just like the typical FOC whatever. When they announced the book, they had already printed pretty much all the copies they were going to print. And so every retailer in the world was like trying to get as many copies as possible. There were crazy allocations, and yeah, you could try placing a pre-order and see what happened. My LCS had a raffle because they were only getting one copy of the book in. And I think, I don't even know like how many copies JP tried to get, but I want to say he ended up only getting like 3 or 4 copies. And he was like, yo, this is crazy. Like, I don't even want the headache of trying to decide which customer gets this. So I'm just going to gift these to a few of my friends. And so this is the JLA Avengers, by George Perez trade paperback. And I did not think I was ever going to own this book, let alone own this book and not pay some crazy exorbitant price for it. But that's just the kind of friend JP is. And, you know, at the time he told us to keep it on the low because it was like me and like I said, 2 or 3 other people. But I saw somebody else spill the beans. And so I figured, hey, we're like a year and a half removed. And I got this book a year and a half ago. And I'm super grateful for it. This is just really, really awesome. And so it's just something that I'm always going to keep in the collection. That it's I would say a one of a kind piece. I think they printed like 7,000 of these. So it's a 7,000 or 1 in 7,000 piece. But, yeah, I'm just glad to have that book. We're winding down, right? So one of my other really good friends in the comic hobby, is my man, Chris Balga from the World's Finest True Believers podcast. Chris, is affectionately known as my collecting partner. Chris was someone, who was like, hey, if you ever want to come to Heroes Con, like you can stay in Charlotte, like you can stay at my house in my guest room. And I remember being like, yo, that's really weird. Like, I don't know you. Like, I'm not staying at your house. And I showed pictures to my wife. I was like, well, this is the guy, you know, he seems safe. He's got a family. And, she's like, hey, you know, at your own risk, do your thing. Right. But anyway, I meet Chris. I go to his house and stay at his house, for my first ever Heroes Con. This was back in 2022. Yeah, this was last year. And, anyway, we hit it off and we've been really good friends ever since. But at that con, we both go up to meet Louise Simonson and we've got all these books to get signed. And she's like, what are you, collecting partners or something? And I was like, I've never heard that term, but that is exactly what we are from this day forth. So anyway, my collecting partner, Chris, you know, I was telling like in one of our group chats, like, oh yeah, you know, here's some of these books that I missed out on. And one of the books I missed out on this year was Marvel Zombies. They did a reprint, but that thing came and went out of print so quickly. And I was like, hey, I just don't have the funds to swing it. He's like, well, you know, I'm upgrading my copy because the original printing of Marvel Zombies had like this terrible binding. And he's like, so, I mean, if you want to pay me shipping, you can have my old copy. And I was like, hey, sure. Why not? So this is my copy of Marvel Zombies, the first printing. Now, Chris has like done some spine repair on this like 3 or 4 different times. And so right now it looks fine. There's a big heavy dose of glue right there. But, you know, who knows? He told me like, just be careful, like read it like one time because that's probably not going to hold up. But yeah, this is my copy of Marvel Zombies, the first print, which is really cool to me. Of course, I'm not doing a countdown without talking about Milestone. Being a part of the Milestone fan community on Facebook, literally being one of the moderators in the Milestone Fan Group on Facebook. Did I say Facebook twice? Anyway, what I meant was just on the internet. But anyway, being a moderator in that group has opened me up to like just seeing other people's collections and learning more and just being able to contribute a lot more to kind of the story of Milestone or the story of Milestone fandom, so to speak. But someone who I've met through that community is my man, Tim Sheeran. And I talked about this in my Milestone collection video, so I won't harp on it too long. But Tim is just dope. Tim is one of those people who's always going out to like yard sales and flea markets and stuff. And if he finds something Milestone, he just buys it. And then he'll go back to the groups like, hey, anybody need this? I got it, right? And so one day he's like, hey, man, I need your address. I'm going to send you something. And he sends me this. Hardware issue 50. This is the final issue of Hardware. This book goes from anywhere from like $60 to like $100, depending on condition. And he just sent me this book for free. And he was the reason my Milestone collection was complete. But yeah, it was this and Static 45 that I just couldn't find at a reasonable price. I ended up finding Static 45 on eBay, but this, my man Tim sent me. And this is one of my favorite gifts. I've gotten other like Milestone gifts specifically from Tim. But then also my man Steven made that awesome Static hoodie. My man Tayshawn made a really cool Milestone shirt for me and gave it to me at Heroes Con 2022. So I'm really grateful for all of like the Milestone homies in the fan group. But yeah, so that's another really cool gift. And I think we're down to the last two. Quick honorable mention. And this came out of nowhere last week. My man Brian sent me a message like, hey, I just saw your Milestone collection video. I really like your approach to comics. And I have this thing that I've not seen anybody else with. And I want you to have it if you want it. And it's this. This is a promo pin for Milestone. This would have been during the whole Shadow War period. Because with Shadow War and after the second wave, or as the second wave of Milestone books came out, they kind of changed their slogan to more than just the color, really trying to like highlight that they're not just a black comic book company. I have never seen this pin online or otherwise, but it's got the Milestone logo. It's got that little like 90s, like trademark Afrocentric zigzag thing, and then a rainbow on it. And yeah, I have never seen this before. And, yeah, so that's really cool. So shout out to you, Brian, for that. But yeah, so it's fitting that these last two, go together. My man Skip and Tosh and my man Bunkmaster B. Bunkmaster B I had seen on like the Near Mint Condition channel and a bunch of other comic chats. And I don't know when he decided to come into our community, but he did. And over the years, he has sent me like gag gifts and won't let me live down a certain convention joke that I made. But anyway, there's one day I'm just talking about like different books that I'm excited for. And he's like, hey, Kicks, don't buy that one yet. And so I didn't. And what he ended up sending me was this, the One Saturday Morning Adventures. You guys know how much I love Disney. And now that Dynamite's got the Disney license, I talk about Disney a lot more. But before this, it was just a bunch of Fantagraphics reprints of old Disney stuff. And that's exactly what this is. One Saturday Morning Adventures, collecting a bunch of one-off comic stories featuring Recess and Doug and Pepper Ann and all that, right? Love this. And this was a gift from my homie Bunkmaster B. But Bunk, much like my friend Skip, is always going to send me something that he wants me to read, not just stuff that I want to read. That's a weird way to say that. My point is, he's always trying to put me onto new stories as well. So with that, well, anyway, the book he sent me with the One Saturday Morning Adventures was actually the Astro City Metro book, part 1. And I really, really enjoyed it. I read it on my vacation in Tortola when I was there for, visiting family. But anyway, that original 6 issues Astro City sort of anthology, it's probably some of my favorite comic reading I've ever done. Written by Kurt Busiek, art by Christian Anderson. Hans Christian Andersen. That's the guy. Brent Eric Anderson. I did it again. Hans Christian Andersen, the dude that wrote The Snow Queen. Anyway, point is, he got Astro City for me, and that was a really cool gift because it's a book that I probably wouldn't have picked up otherwise, but because he grabbed it, I read it. Now I'm like, dang, now I'm an Astro City fan. Anyway, so there's that. where did I put it? It was just over here because I was just reading it like 2 days ago. But the other, friend, I've talked about Skip a lot on this channel. And Skip was just that type of dude that would just send you stuff like, nah, bro, like, you're going to like this. I know what you like. You're going to like this, right? So he and I bonded over, our shared love of Black Panther. And one day he's like, hey, I'm selling some Black Panther books out of the collection. I've gotten my enjoyment out of them. I wanted you to be the first to know. And so he sold me this Black Panther #1 Ta-Nehisi Coates. This is the hip hop variant by Brian Stelfreeze, but it's homaging the Black Panther with the Black Album, which is my favorite Jay-Z album. And it's signed by Brian Stelfreeze, which is also just really, really cool. This is a great cover. Like, of all the hip hop variants, this is probably top 3, and it's not 3. So there's that. But along with that, he was selling this, The Building a Monarchy sketchbook by Stelfreeze, which is something that Stelfreeze was only selling at conventions, but he did not have it for sale at the time I met him at Heroes. And so Skip sent this to me, right? But along with those, Skip's always sending stuff that, like, you didn't ask for, but you didn't know you needed, right? He sent me this. This is Mosaic, issue #1, written by Jeff Thorne, art by Kari Randolph, colors by Emilio Lopez. Love this book. I did like a super awesome Jeff Thorne interview. Not that the interview was awesome because I did anything. It was just awesome that I got an opportunity to talk to Jeff Thorne. But anyway, did a Jeff Thorne interview on the channel. We talked about a bunch of different stuff. And Skip remembered that and sent me a copy of Mosaic #1. So that was really cool. He also sent this. This is Compass. It's a book drawn by Justin Greenwood. And so that was really cool, especially since months later we did a Justin Greenwood interview on the channel. But my favorite gift from my man Skip and Tosh is actually not something I can show you right here. I got to do some B-roll. Skip just randomly sent me one day these art prints. And the art prints feature a bunch of my favorite comic book characters wearing a bunch of my favorite sneakers. Some of you guys may know this, but I started a sneaker channel last year, just reviewing sneakers that were being sent to me. And Skip, knowing that I was big into like classic 90s sneakers, was just like, yo, you're going to love this art. And so he sent it to me. And so now those prints are on my wall, and they've been on my wall since he sent them. And now they're never leaving the wall. So only right that I end this, of course, with my homie Skip, but I really love those prints. And yeah, so those are some of my favorite gifts that I've received from the comic book community. There's one gift that kind of goes without saying. It's not something I can show you, but when my daughter was born unexpectedly, my homie Laura from Married with Comics, like, just rounded up the troops and like organized this amazing effort on my family's behalf to raise money for like DoorDash, gift cards, and whatever else we needed when my daughter was in the hospital. And so, like, that's not a comic book gift, but that's a gift that only the comic book community would bring together, right? Outside of like our church, like, no one like tried to do something like that for us. And so that has a special place in my heart as well. But yo, it's Christmas. I'm probably going to take the day off tomorrow, and I'll finish up the 25 days of comics the day after Christmas. I want you guys to enjoy your family, enjoy some time with each other. Don't spend all your time with noses and books. Like, really enjoy your people. And then we'll get back to this, in a couple of days. But hey, I don't know what you're doing today. Whatever it is, you should stay safe, stay awesome, and hey, read something dope today. Peace.